Before we go on to the next steps of the Seder, I want to speak about something that we began to touch on here in Motzi Matzah, and really something that's present in a lot of the Seder. And that is making space for our pain, for our suffering, for brokenness, for weakness. We just discussed how when we eat the matzah, when we fulfill this mitzvah of matzah, we have to have both a whole matzah and a broken matzah. That the matzah isn't complete if there's not also a broken one there. To do this mitzvah in the complete way is to have one whole and one broken. That there's something more whole that is present when we make space for our own need, for our impoverishment, our poverty, our lack, for that which is not complete right now, for that which is broken. And we can see similar things that come up in the karpas and the salt water, and in the marar that we're going to get to, and the charoset, and even in the 4 cups of wine. The rabbis discuss different reasons. The famous one is the 4 languages of redemption. But there's other opinions that it's about the 4 exiles. That at each stage in the Seder, we are inviting both the energy of redemption and the presence of lack and the reality of incomplete redemption or of exile. And both exist here simultaneously. Even think about what we do when we're eating these matzahs. We lean, right? Throughout the Seder, most of the Seder, we lean to the left. Now, everybody knows that we lean because that's the way of royalty, of free people, to lean, be worry-free. But we actually lean to the left side. And the left side, in the language of the rabbis, is the weak side. I'm leaning in freedom, in royalty and leisure, leaning into my weakness. Kabbalistically, the left side is the side of din, the side of harshness, the side of limitation, the side of incomplete, the side of lack, and the side of shadow, of my own deficiency, of the shadow of the world, of the reality of darkness. I'm leaning into that as I'm celebrating my freedom. Or rather, the way to celebrate my freedom on this night is to lean into my weakness, to make space for my pain and suffering right here as I'm eating my bread of freedom. And I'm also in the very same bite eating my bread of poverty. And what this says to me is that the freedom of Pesach is not a kind of freedom that's merely about being released from oppressive circumstances or being protected from pain. It's a freedom that's deeper than that. It's a freedom that allows me to still exist in whatever degree of brokenness and deficiency I am in this moment, and my world is in this moment, and nonetheless to be free. If I can only be free if I'm free of pain, then so long as I have pain, I am not free. And guess what? I don't know anybody who has a life without pain. And I don't know if Pesach holds a promise for us of a life without suffering or pain. But it holds a promise for us of something that can invite our pain to be here so that we can be free from it. In a sense, if I'm running from pain, if I need to be separate from suffering, from Mitzrayim, from constraint, if I need to be completely separate from that in order to know my worth and goodness, in order to feel whole and holy and worthy, then it's either me or the suffering. we cannot coexist. And what that means for most of us is that we cannot fully exist. By exiling ourselves from our suffering, we ourselves live and exist in exile. We are incomplete. But if I can somehow have a breadth, a expansion, an opportunity where I can experience myself to be big enough to also incorporate and invite in my pain and my weakness and my suffering, even my exile, so then all of a sudden I'm not really exiled. I'm here. I'm here. What it means to be free on Pesach is to lean on my left side with a cup of wine and drink the wine of freedom with my pain, with my deficiencies, because I'm not limited by them. They're here, and all of me is here. They're actually integral to my wholeness. This broken matzah is necessary for there to be the complete matzah. Even the word Pesach, the name of this holiday, we think it means Passover, and that's one of the meanings, but it's actually perhaps not the most literal meaning. God said to Bnei Israel the night they left Egypt, their last night in Egypt, they didn't even leave yet, right? Sit in your homes and paint blood around the doorpost, and I'll see the blood ufasachti aleichem. I will poseach on you. Which, okay, God skipped over their houses. The plague didn't strike the firstborn in the houses that had blood on the doorpost. But the more literal meaning of Piseach, of Pesach, Rashi brings us as one of the interpretations, means a Piseach is somebody with a limp. It's somebody who limps, who doesn't walk steady, who has a deficient leg. And somebody with a limp passes over, because if I have a limp, so I'm actually skipping with every step. I don't have a steady one foot in front of the other, but with each step I take, I skip. And in this way, God skipped over our homes. Fasachti aleichem. It's a skipping, it's a salvation, it's a redemption that involves, that embodies, that contains what is not whole. That is actually founded upon inviting in and making space for all of that weakness and not being held back by it. Being able to leave nonetheless, being able to be free nonetheless. So this is, in a sense, a Kavannah that accompanies us and is expressed in every particular way through the Seder, but here at Motzi Matzah, in particular when we're eating this matzah and leaning on our left side. We're making space for all of our loss, all of our weakness, all of our pain, all of our suffering that doesn't need to be exiled. We can make space for it here and be eating the matzah and knowing in the depth of our being, with all of this, I am free. I am a ben chorin. Ben chorin, a person of liberation. A ben chorin, somebody who has chorim, who has holes in me. I have holes in me like the matzah. That's what makes me a ben chorin. I'm whole with my holes. And I get to just sit there with all of them on display here and pronounce freedom with every one of my missing pieces. The initial redemption from Egypt began with God seeing our suffering and hearing our cries. Ra'o ra'iti et ani ami asher b'Mitzrayim. God tells Moses at the burning bush, I've seen, so deeply seen, their suffering. I know. Yadati et machovav. I know their pain. God took notice, made space within the divine heart for our suffering, and was mercifully moved to join us, to come down a red lahatzilo, to descend to where we were, to rescue us and bring us forward and bring us out. And on Pesach night at the Seder, we tell the story of how God saw our pain, Vayaret onyenu. And we ourselves are there to see ourselves in our fullness too. B'chol dor v'dor chayav adam lirot et atzmo. Just as God saw us in the fullness of our situation, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the fathers and the mothers and all of our ancestry, and to say, these are the people who are sitting and living in such decrepit circumstances. They are this and they are this, and I care for them. We on Seder night are there to see ourselves. To see ourselves the way God saw us, in our wholeness, in the totality of us, the parts that are strong, the parts that are weak, the parts that are ready to be redeemed, the parts that are really not, the parts that are suffering, the tears that we're carrying, the bitterness that we're tasting, and the scent of redemption that we're also carrying, and the hopefulness and celebration and readiness to spring up and to spring out that we are already embodying. All of this is there at the Seder, and we're making space on Seder night to see all of it. Piyasetzner Rebbe, Zchuto Yagen Aleinu, B'chol Yom V'yom. May His merit protect us and be with us always. He reads these words, B'chol dor dor chayav adam lirot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim, to mean in each and every generation, a person needs to see themselves. And if we truly see ourselves, if we can truly be present in this moment, it's ki'ilu yatsanu miMitzrayim. It's already as if we have left. We have already been redeemed by making space and noticing and really being there for and with our fullness on this night. That's the path of redemption. That's the Geula we're celebrating here tonight. To be true, B'nai and Benot Chorin.